So, as many of you know, I am Vanessa Sense, and I am literally just a mom. Just a mom, just a wife, just a daughter. I work full time, and I just got this call in my heart to make a series of videos of what I've experienced and what I call miracles in my life. They've taught me a whole lot about everything, how to spiritually get closer to source, to God, how to be more compassionate, how to help people, how to, overcome huge hardships. I mean, I'm not by any means an expert in anything. I always tell my husband the only thing I'm an expert in is my daughters, because I know everything about them. And even still, that's not a 100% situation. Many times I don't know what to do, and I just go follow my gut feeling. That's how I navigate through life. I follow my gut feeling. I just wing it. But and I know that's like a mom thing. Many moms can relate, dads. But I just let myself be guided by what I feel right here in my gut. Many times it's more powerful than what you feel in your heart. Because guidance comes from the other side, basically. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all woo-woo with you guys. I let myself be guided from the other side. And what does the other side mean? So basically, each one of us are a spark of God, right? God being the main source of creation. He is the creator. And I say he, but really he's not a person. He is a humongous, massive, beautiful energy, love, light, which that's where we all come from, right? So today I want to just briefly tell you a little bit about my daughter. I'm sure there's going to be more videos where I'm going to go more into detail about what we went through with her. But basically, I have two daughters. The first one is 12, and her name is Maddie. The second one is 6, and her name is Danni. We lovingly call her Danni the Great. Why? Because she is our great little warrior. She was born in June 2014, and I'm gonna use the terms very loosely because that's exactly how we were told in what we thought at the time. I try to be careful with terms such as normal or healthy or a problem, because obviously in this special needs kiddos world, as a special need mom, we sometimes get weird pet peeves. And one of my pet peeves words are normal. Another one is disability. Yeah, I know. But I'm going to explain to you guys why. So she was born and she was normal. She looked normal. Chubby, beautiful, healthy. She had a very good weight, almost 8 pounds. Everything was as good as it was expected to be. We came home from the hospital and she started having these weird issues, weird movements. They're called jackknife movements, which basically the newborn would be like this, and all of a sudden it was like she would jackknife and clench her little fists and pull up her little leggies, and her eyes would just roll to the back of her head. And at the beginning, it was like one here and there, but then I started noticing it was kind of like in clusters of 10, 12 jackknife movements thingies. So as a regular mom, I ran to the pediatrician and I explained to them what I was looking at, what I was seeing at home, and he just said, "No, she's good. She just has some colics, and she's probably allergic to your milk, or the lactose in your milk is affecting her belly." They loaded her up with Mylanta, being a newborn, and made me switch her from my milk to lactose-free formula. Obviously, that didn't help. Those movements, we later came to find out they were called infantile spasms. Infantile spasms is the most catastrophic form of epilepsy. Why catastrophic? Because they actually affect their little brain so much that if they're not controlled or stopped, it will cause just massive delays, and they're very dangerous overall. So we saw those things. Well, we thought they went away, but they just kind of like morphed into another type of seizures, which we didn't know they were seizures. She was a jumpy baby, what we call jumpy baby. What does that mean? Well, she would just be happily hanging out on her high chair, her crib, or wherever she would be at playing, and all of a sudden she would just jolt, and her eyes would roll to the back of her head. That was the common denominator. So, we used to yell at my oldest daughter, Maddie, don't be too noisy, don't scream too loud, blah blah blah, because the baby gets scared, gets jumpy. Well, we didn't know any better. Obviously, that was not the case. Around 10, 11 months, one time I was holding her up here, and my husband came over to play with her and talk to her, and all of a sudden she jolted herself so hard backwards. I almost dropped her, so I grabbed her, and her eyes literally got stuck in the back of her head. And when she came back, she just stood there just staring at us like, what just happened? And that's when I told my husband, you know what? Did you see that? This is just not us being, overly protective, or this is something seriously wrong. So we took videos. We pushed the pediatrician to order some tests, and finally they ordered an EEG. Long story short, the technician he kept opening his eyes bigger and bigger the further we went into the test. And the test it's just electrodes all over her head, and those electrodes are connected to a computer. And in that computer, it gets measured the brain waves and the brain activity in both hemispheres and each part of each lobe of the brain. If there's anything not normal, whether it's causing active seizures at the time or there's subclinical activity, which is when you actually don't see with a naked eye seizures, but the brain is actually actively seizing inside. It causes severe delays, and it's not good. It could also, if it's left untreated and not controlled, epilepsy can cause death. There's many causes of death. One of them is SUDEP, SUDEP, which epileptic kiddos and adults can just literally go to sleep and never wake up. And that's actually fairly common and very little explained by doctors to us parents of epileptic kiddos, that this is a risk and this is why we need to really control epilepsy from the root. So anyway, at that time, the technician told me that I needed to be seen. Well, I needed to speak with a neurologist right then and there. There was something really wrong with my daughter. He called the pediatric neurologist, and I met with her. That's when I received the official diagnosis of epilepsy, and we started what we call AEDs, which are anti-epileptic drugs. These are pharmaceutical drugs that basically most of them, and in most kids, not all, but most kids, cause severe side effects, right? So while some of them in some kids help and control seizures, for us, it didn't. They didn't work. They would give us like a little, what we call grace period, of seizure freedom, a couple months at the time, and then seizures would come back with a vengeance, and worse. And then we would still have to deal with the side effects. The side effects were just we literally saw our daughter become from a happy a year old, 12 months old baby girl that was loving and was started to babble her first words, to a little baby who was completely out there. We thought she had become autistic. So she wasn't able to make eye contact. She wasn't able. She stopped playing, stopped talking. She only wanted to be with me. She would do repetitive motions. She hated everybody else, including my dad and my husband's dad. And then the seizures, they still kept coming. So we kept adding and adding and adding until this neurologist told me, well, Mrs. Sense, we don't know what else to do. This is not supposed to happen. So what would you like me to do? I was like, well, you tell me. You're the professional. You are the one who tells me what to do, right? But that was not the case. So I quickly realized that I needed to advocate for my daughter. She was a severe case. And after running more tests, we discovered that she had a brain malformation. She was born with a congenital brain malformation. We had the wrong diagnosis with this neurologist. But then as the epilepsy progressed, and seizures became little jolts more and more often, and then they morphed into big grand mals where my daughter would stop breathing for minutes, and it got scary, right? One of those seizures, I'm sure, was going to take her life. We decided, my husband and I, to pack up our minivan and drive from Pennsylvania to Boston Children's Hospital. One morning, we said, well, you know what? I mean, we took her to the local hospitals. We took her to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and they were just like, we don't know what to do with her. I mean, you can just try one more AED, and good luck. Here you go. We were sick with that, Obviously, that approach was not working out. So we decided to research the top dogs in the nation. I found literally an angel on earth, my friend Dana. And she was my guide in life through that journey. she took me in under her wing, her having an epilepsy child herself and having to go through the same basically. She taught me many things. She guided me through it all, and she listened to me many mornings, early mornings, late nights, sob because things were not working out. So we decided to take her to Boston. We were tired of the little doctors around here diagnosis, and obviously nothing was working. And that's where we found top-notch doctors over there. I had to quit my job as a designer. We couldn't possibly imagine not having two incomes, but we made it work somehow. And the journey began. Well, it had already begun, but now it was like, we mean business, right? We that morning we packed up the minivan. I told my husband we need to move mountains for my kid. Mountains are not going to move themselves. We need to do it ourselves. And we were scared to death that they were going to reject us. As soon as we got to the hospital, we had to drive 10 hours to get to Boston with a seizing child in the back of the minivan in the second row. And we drove all night long till we got there. Finally got there, and when I walked into the ER with my seizing child, I was trembling, shaking. It was an early June morning after driving all night, and they took us right in. Thank God they took us right in. They were the first people who actually understood us. We felt understood. We felt embraced. And they weren't just like, well, I mean, here's another AED, just give it a try. Good luck. They actually ran serious tests. They assigned us a room right away. Yes, they added yet another medicine because she was uncontrollable. And that's when we found out the true diagnosis of my daughter. So, ready? This is a mouthful. Hemimegalencephaly. What the heck is that? Basically, well, hemi means half, mega, big, encephaly, anomaly of the brain. So basically, half of her brain is abnormal. It didn't form well, and it's a little bigger than the right side of her brain. This lack of balance and the dysplasia in her brain caused abnormal activity, leading to seizures and leading to intractable epilepsy. Intractable means that it cannot be controlled with regular medications that other people with epilepsy have great success with. So then the doctor came in, talked to us, and he told us that, well, I mean, basically we had an only option, which was to place our daughter in the OR table and fruit fly. And have her brain, half of her brain, cut out. This procedure is called a hemispherectomy. Nowadays, they actually go through one lobe, so they remove a lobe or two, usually a temporal, and then they disconnect the rest of the lobes on the affected side. So it is like a hemispherectomy. It's called hemispherotomy, which is basically what Danni has. And well, I mean, nobody really unless you're a parent of a child with hemimegalencephaly or any of the Sturge-Weber or dysplasic, have their brains or whatnot, unless you're a parent, or brain cancer, that, unless you're a parent that has gone through that, I cannot begin to explain what that feels like. It's literally the sharpest stab in your heart and then go like this, right? What the hell is gonna happen? My kid, is she gonna live literally with half of her brain? Like, is she gonna be the same? Is she gonna wake up? Is she gonna survive this? Like, is there such a thing as people living with half of a brain? Like, what the hell? I remember just dropping on my knees in the middle of the kitchen and look out the window, look up at the sky, and scream, why? What did my 2-year-old do to deserve this shit? Excuse my French, but I'm just gonna be open. What the hell? Like, what is this about? Why don't you give it to me, the mom, the adult? I can handle it, okay? I already lived, I don't know, I'm 42, maybe most of my life, or a good chunk of my life, or half of my life, I don't know. But like, I got into this conflict with life, with God, with the whole situation. I resisted. I was not accepting. I was mad. I was beyond myself, beyond sadness, beyond scared. Like, I've never been scared. And, well, things happen, right? So at the beginning, we were like, well, maybe we can save some of her left side of the brain, at least the motor strip. What is the motor strip? It's literally a strip of the brain that is located right around here. It's part of the front lobe. It's literally right in between the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, and temporal lobe. And it's a part of the brain that controls movement of half of your body on the opposite side. So my left motor strip, located right here, controls the right half of my body, including facial movement, my mouth, my tongue, like the right side of my tongue, my arm, my hand, my fingers on my right side, like everything, my limbs, everything on the opposite side. And my motor strip on my right side of the brain controls the opposite side of my body. So little kids that have had damage on their motor strip on one side or the other, or both, they can become quadriplegic, they can become hemiplegic, they can become severely affected. So if we went ahead and cut out this left side motor strip, her entire right side of her body would be limp. No movement, or at least that's what we were told. And then eventually we also were told that it would like contract and shrink and be like completely rigid, making her unable to move one side of her body and becoming extremely disabled. Not to mention mentally the toll it was going to take, emotionally the toll it was going to take, because even though she was only 2, she would forever remember. She was probably never going to be able to read, write, do math, do anything. She could probably eventually learn to walk. She could probably use her right hand as a helper hand, whatever that means. We were not sure if she was going to be able to ever talk because I believe in the temporal lobe, the left temporal lobe, that's where speech in a human brain is normally located. And since we were going to remove her temporal lobe, regardless of the type of surgery, well, then kiss it goodbye, right? But even when she had it in, like even before surgery, with all these seizures attacking her constantly, she was starting to lose speech. So she would gain a few words here and there, and then boom, lose them completely. So at one point she called me mama, but then completely lost it. And I remember thinking, well, you know what? Right before the first surgery, if we could at least save the motor strip, even though it's malformed, maybe we can just control it with AEDs, because it's a smaller part of the brain, right? So the rest of the brain is going to get removed, but at least if we save this part, at least maybe we can, it'll be easy enough to control with medicine. Excuse me. And as long as she can just call me mama one more time in her life, that would be it for me. I don't need more. I don't, as long as she comes out alive of that surgery, we can work with her. And just in my brain, it was like, just perform miracles, because I believe in miracles, and she's going to be one, and she is already one. So I started letting go. I stopped resisting. I started trusting somehow. I don't know. Don't ask me why. I think, like I was telling you, leading myself and letting myself be guided by my gut feeling was huge. So yeah, we decided to go to Boston again and have her put under the knife, and save that motor strip, hoping that she wouldn't lose movement in her right side of the body. She came out. That was 9 hours of surgery, one blood transfusion, and she recovered. We worked with her. However, she suffered a mini stroke while in surgery, near her third eye nerve, and her left eye became affected. So not only did we disconnect or got rid of her occipital lobe, part of the temporal and part of the parietal, but we're also dealing with her vision, internal and external, like motor and functional, because the occipital lobe is the lobe in charge of vision. And when you remove one of the occipital lobes, in this case, the left occipital lobe, her vision gets cut. It's called hemianopsia. And it's literally it gets cut. Instead of seeing the whole peripheral and central vision, she would have cut half of her vision in both eyes. So the way I explain it is, if you have clear glasses, right, and you grab a Sharpie and draw a line in the middle of each glass, of each eye, and then color the right side of each of the glasses, and then put it on. That's how she sees. She sees half of her peripheral vision. So we had lost that with the occipital lobe being removed. And then on top of it, her left eye got misaligned. So now we were dealing with exotropia with her. Her eyes normally would just stare perfectly aligned. Now her left eye was out and lower. So her eyes were not aligned anymore, giving her even less vision, right? So she literally lost from 100% of vision to 25% of vision. We were beyond devastated, to say the least, but we kept working with her. We took her to a physical therapist that worked miracles with her. She's no normal physical therapist. Her name is Carla Reed. Carla, we love you. And she is a certified Anat Baniel therapist. What is Anat Baniel? It's a therapy, and she'll be able to explain it better, but it's a therapy that teaches the brain that it's not just one hand moving at a time. It's like a wholeness. In fact, in her website, it has a saying, movement to wholeness, or wholeness to movement, something like that. Like I said, I should interview her one day, so she'll be able to explain a little better, in better terms, what I'm trying to explain here. But we literally saw miracles. She started crawling again. She started trying to walk. She walked right away, literally like a week after she was already walking again. So she learned how to walk the first time at 22 months, right before she turned 2. And then at 2.5, she had her surgery and had to relearn how to walk. Unfortunately, 3 months later, seizures returned and were again intractable. That little piece of the brain that we left in there that we thought we could control with medication, well, said, nope, I'm here to cause trouble. And she started having seizures again. We were just tired of ambulance calls and admissions to the hospitals, and we said, you know what, let's just finish this, get over with it, done. And we drove back. It was right around Christmas time, 2016, when we said, you know what, no, let's just finish this. And we went back. I remember one of the doctors, Japanese, Dr. Okada, he was good to my soul. He literally stared at my husband's eyes when my husband mentioned, we just don't know what's going to happen, and we'll just work with what we have. And he looked at him right in the eye and said, she's going to be perfect, because she's already perfect. And that struck me like a lightning, and that moved me. And with that, I think that shook me so hard that I refused to ever call her disabled. She will be perfect. And I started reading and listening to podcasts. And I found this great author. His name is Joe Dispenza. And he literally, he's a neuro practitioner. He is a neurologist. He's a chiropractor. He has like so many PhDs and so many other titles. And he's a scientist, and he's run some serious studies. Like, he's just not just like full shit, right? he's ran studies in conferences with real people, and he's discovered that you can actually change your DNA, you can actually change your cells, you can actually change your body with the power of thought, with the power of words. Because how he words it himself, your personality is your personal reality. Now, if you think about it, your personality is your personal reality. And what makes your personal reality? Thoughts. Thoughts and emotions. And they're connected, right? And how does a little kid think? They are born with clear thoughts, with positive thoughts, with we are the ones, the world, but mainly us parents, we're the ones who forged them. We're the ones who just, compose them. I don't even know how to say it, but like, we build them up. And depends on how we talk to them, what we tell them, they will believe that's who they are and that's what they're capable of doing. So I promised myself I was never, ever, ever gonna tell her, no, don't do that because you can't. Or no, don't do that because you're not able to. Or no, don't do that because you have a disability. Ever. Okay. We went into the second surgery and we knew this was going to be it. She was going to become the child with half a brain. And God, did we pray for her to come back alive. The minute I surrendered to that OR table, she was half loopy because she had already received a dose of I forget the medicine's name, but is to calm them down. But a 2-year-old, I mean, she was already scared from all the tests and all the pokes and pricks and the experiments they were doing with her, not to mention a brain surgery before. She was a mess, and I was too. So they let me hold her while she had already put all the IVs and all the medicines. So she was half awake and she was crying, but literally just whimpering because that's all she could do. She was half conscious. And I put her in that table. And that was the most difficult thing at that time. I've gone through worse now. That was the most difficult times of my life. Those seconds. Everything was cloudy. Everything was cold. I felt lonely. But the minute I walked into that OR, something clicked. Something was like different. Something like I wasn't alone, but not because there were surgeons and doctors and nurses and like a whole huge team of 20 people in there getting ready to open a little child's brain and cut it out. But there was something else in there. There was somebody else in there that I couldn't describe at the time, but I felt it. I put my baby in that bed. I kissed her. I gave her a blessing. And I told her Mama was going to come right back to get her and that she was protected and very, very loved. And when I walked out, I don't know how I walked out. I do remember a nurse when being about my height or probably taller than me, and she just held my arm and quite possibly dragged me to where my husband was, and I about vomited. I don't remember much of that time, but I remember thinking and saying out loud, why is it not me? Why am I not the one in that table being operated on, being having my brains cut out, and why is it her? And the nurse turned to look at me and said, "Don't you say that. God has a plan, and you're not going against it. That is her journey. Yours is yours. Yours is different." And she said, "And you're asking for you to take all the pain. Well, you already are, because she's put under. She doesn't know. You are the one who had to decide whether you were going to save her life through this or let her die. And you are already taking all the pain." Literally almost slapped me, which I probably already needed, because I was in this trance of darkness. And so that was a 12-hour surgery, and she needed 2 transfusions. God, it was just so bad. So bad. My other daughter came along because she started to develop such anxiety, and she asked for us to come along, and we did. And so I took her downstairs somehow, and somehow we ate ice cream. I don't know how I kept it down, but miraculously she came out. They took longer because there was a lot of scar tissue, and all that they were being extra careful. She lost a lot of blood, but thank God she came out, and our journey for recovery started there. I'll probably make another video with that journey, but I just wanted to share right now the beginning of it, and how, in a nutshell, because there's so much detail, how we went through all that stuff. After that, during her recovery, which was rough, I went through PTSD. I had miserable panic attacks. I couldn't sleep at night. I was literally in constant vigilance of her having seizures. Thank God she has not had any since. And this, we just turned 4 years seizure free from her second surgery, January the 29th. No, the 23rd, I'm sorry. So it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. It was a hard one. But I realized I was never alone. I went to therapy. I had to go through therapy. I went through that, and it's almost like a regressive therapy. Well, they will work through all those thoughts with you. The therapist doesn't make you talk about it, rather like you go through your thoughts and you mention whatever flashes of thoughts come at you, and he's guiding you through it. And at the end, he tells you, now picture, instead of, whatever bad thoughts you had and bad emotions, in my case was powerlessness, sadness, weakness, fear, extreme fear, all those thoughts. Now I had to change them for empowering, love, strength, all those thoughts that are of higher elevation, right? Of higher vibration, higher vibrational thoughts. And when I was going back, I literally got to the thought of me putting her on the operation table. And I remember I was put under a state of, I guess, meditation or like a trance, but I wasn't like completely gone. Like I could still hear his voice telling me and all that stuff, but you know, and I could hear myself saying what I was picturing, and but I was the spectator now. I was the observer, and I was almost like in a corner of the OR room, the operating room, and I was observing myself being rolled in. And then I don't know if I think I got rolled in with her in my arms, and then being able to stand up and putting her on the table and her looking at me whimpering and trying to reach for me with all these cables. And I was holding her like this, and when I was kissing her and giving her blessing, I clearly saw almost like beings of light. There were like 5 or 6 behind me, like 4 to 6 beings of light, like almost human shapes, but they were really tall. And they didn't really have like arms or anything. It was just like shapes. Like, and they were light, and they were like a bluish, whitish light, and they were standing right behind me. And I got engulfed in that light. And when I opened my eyes, I realized that I had felt them, but like I knew I wasn't alone. But I didn't have the sensitivity or the sensibility, I don't know, to see or really know, what was happening. So which made me start this spiritual seeking journey. And I could have taken the other path, which was going to a psychiatrist and being put on medication. Given that my daughter, my 2-year-old, was severely addicted to benzos, which are also used, benzos are also used as medication for anxiety and depression. I did not want to go through that like her, because weaning her off of that benzo was horrendous. It was a nightmare. I literally had a little drug addict. She would throw up, she would throw fits, she would see things that were in there. I mean, it was horrible. So I didn't want to take that path. I didn't want to take the medication path. And I'm not saying it doesn't work for others. I'm saying for us it didn't work, and I wasn't willing to go through that myself. So I found the spiritual path, and that made more sense. That resonated more with me. There's people that medication resonates with them, and that's more than respectable. It wasn't my case. My gut feeling was like, nope, have to come this way. And I started doing a lot of research. I read many books. Like I said, one of my favorite authors is Joe Dispenza. I literally gobbled all his books already. I also love Eckhart Tolle. The Power of Now is one of my favorite books as well. That was the first one I read, and oh my God, I love it so much. I also love Lynn McTaggart. She's also a scientist. She does a lot of research studies, and oh my God, it makes so much sense. I love quantum physics, not just spirituality on the woo-woo side. I love to hear how science and our reality, our 3D human experience connects with a 5D and beyond, a spiritual world, right? And energetics, bioenergetics. We go to a doctor who is, well, him and his dad, experts in bioenergetics and kinetics. And oh my God, it fascinates me. It fascinates me. For years, I was misdiagnosed with a, problem, IBS problem. Literally got to the point that I was bleeding till I was severely anemic. One of the doctors told me that if I didn't take care of this problem with my stomach, well, it was my lower intestines, I was going to have to receive blood transfusions. And I mean, my hair was thinning out. I was falling out like crazy. I was having issues, or like health issues related to the anemia that I had developed. It was really bad. I had to go through 2 surgeries to repair my colon. And this doctor, just like that, performed some bioenergetics tests and told me, you are severely allergic to gluten and grains. And that's your problem. If you cut them out, you're going to be good. Guess what happened? I did. And guess what happens now? I'm perfectly healthy. If I eat a piece of pizza that is not gluten-free, I will be severely ill. And I mean dizzy in the bathroom, sorry, TMI, and bleeding. I mean, that's the honest to goodness truth. So it fascinates me. All of this stuff completely blows the top of my head. And like I said at the beginning, this has been a call in my heart that I've felt for so long. And I'm just going to take the first step. So these videos are going to be done in between me working, in between me mommying, in between me taking care of everything that I need to take care of. No makeup, no hair done, nothing. This is me. This is me, a regular mom. And I hope other regular moms like me, and even the ones who have their stuff together, can relate and can reach out. And I hope that if there's at least one family or one mom or one dad that I can help, or one friend, even if you're not a mom or a dad, one friend that I can help with what I've gone through with my daughter's journey, at least her journey is not going to be in vain. So in the name of my daughter, my Danni the Great, I'm doing this. This is for the higher good. This is to help people. And I just hope that I can reach at least one heart. And it's not just me, the great teacher. No, not at all. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a guru. I'm not an author of any sort. I just want to share my experience so I can at least help one person. If I can do that, I'll be so happy and content. So this is probably gonna be like the nutshell of the whole thing, but like I said, it's gonna be a series of videos where I go into detail about everything that I've gone through, and I hope it helps. Thank you so much. Reach out, comment below, subscribe, and all that stuff that YouTubers do. I love you.